So we're going to be talking about forecasting the weather, just like those people on TV, the weathermen or women, who describe for you what you're likely to encounter that day, and so that you can have your umbrella or not, to be able to have the attunement to what you might experience, just being prepared. Remember, always it's your strategy and authority that will protect you. So that's your umbrella or your raincoat or your snow jacket or whatever it is that you're going to be preparing for. It's your strategy and authority. So we're looking at some of the deepest cyclical programs that each of us are going to come into contact with. Depending on our design, we are going to experience it differently. So remember, this is not about making predictions, but it's about sharing what you see that may be likely to pull somebody off track. With the exception of the monthly cycles, especially for reflectors, monthly cycles are what they want to observe and attune to, because that is their process of decision making through the moon, through the lunar cycle. And you can do lunar cycles for anybody. You can do daily views for anybody. They can be very supportive, either before the fact of approaching the day or after the fact of having experienced the day. So we're going to be talking about forecasting the weather today. Just like the weather on TV, it's possibilities. It may or may not happen. So be very careful not to get into your head and try to force things to happen on a specific date because of the forecast. So as an example, you want to start your business and you're looking at, this day, and you're so hung up on that day because it brings something to your design that is an aspect of your business that you would like to have in it. And so you use your mind to make a mental decision rather than following your strategy and authority. That's a perfect example of what can go haywire if you're not paying attention to your personal process of authority. Okay, so be very, very careful not to also try to influence your clients about this. And remember that nothing overrides your decision-making strategy. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing I tell you about today and taking advantage of the transiting field overrides your decision-making strategy. So always use that as a preference or what is the word? When you're trying to, preface, there we go. When you're trying to advise somebody, when you're looking at things together with them, always caution them to use the information objectively and not try to predict. It's about informing them, okay, of what's the transiting energy frequency or field, depending on what cycle you're looking at. So in any type of cycle analysis or forecasting, always put the decision-making process on them, not you, because they're going to want to, remember, abdicate their authority. You know what better than them. They're paying you money, and so they want to get their money's worth, and they're going to say, well, what do you think? Or what do you advise? So be very careful not to take the power away from them, because you don't want them to be dependent on you. You want to give them their own authority process, because that's what human design is all about. Okay, so you're not there to tell them what to do or when to do it. You're simply there to give them information on the potential energies of that day or that cycle. Today, again, our focus is on daily view and monthly cycles. So that leads me to, I can't remember who asked it, or it was something this past week. And I said, wait until we finish all the cycles, please, because we need to have you learn each of the cycles, and then you'll have the big picture of how to look at this. Every single one of us, our brains can only handle so much information, right? Depending on who you are, you're going to be able to think multidimensionally, more so down the road potentially, maybe even not. Depending on your deconditioning, because all of us, our brain systems work differently. So having the capacity to hold, they're going through this daily cycle and this monthly cycle and this yearly cycle and this, global cycle and this Saturn cycle combined with their Uranus opposition, combined with their Chiron. Of course, you're not going to look at all of that at once, one thing at a time. Okay? One thing at a time. You're not here to tell them what to do. You're here to be aware and cultivate their awareness. So in the daily view, there are 3 things that you're dealing with. 3 things. The impact of the program on yourself. This is the most important thing you can do to learn human design. Everything that goes through the daily program, when you start to feel something unusual or out of the ordinary or different about yourself, immediately my recommendation is go look at the program and see what is activating you personally. I have tons of stories of this that you've probably heard over the years. Tons. Because you can get a sense of what's normally you, what's natural for you. And then when the transiting program comes in, something moves in, and now you've got this immediate sense burst of energy or sharing or empowerment or support or whatever the case may be. Immediately go look at the program. Look at the program and what's going on with your design, its connection to your design. That is going to teach you more than anything because it's personal, real life experience. Okay, so this is, if you haven't done it yet, if you're not in the habit yet, please experiment with it and see if it's correct for you to do so. Because I can tell you, it's taught me so much, besides the people that come into my life and that I ask about and I hear, that's them talking to me. But the transit itself speaks to you. The planets activate you. And those are incredible teachers. As we know, they're all teachers, yeah? So they're teaching you something specific in your own life when they're connected up with you, especially personally. So first things first, program on you. Then in a daily view, you're going to see the environment of the day, as in today we were just looking how it's the global background frequency, or the global, I should say, global programming frequency. Everybody is experiencing that in their design today. Not everybody is going to feel it the same way or experience it the same way, because we all have different layers of design. We're all unique. We're all processing things differently. It's connecting up with us differently. And then with the daily view, the third thing that you're going to see, just to contemplate, Ra always liked to remind us, hey, look, this is a new generation coming into the world. So if we go back to today's daily view, if I put back on the design as well, now you see somebody who was just born. So then you know that this is the frequency that is coming into these larger planetary activations. This is what is coming into as generational themes. Okay, into our world as generational themes. So in understanding the transits programming, you are going to process what's happening in this moment in the daily view, what's happening from 3 different aspects. And if you're describing something to somebody, then it's a 4th, because you're explaining to that specific person what may likely happen to them, or in general to the group, as you have seen me do if you've watched my transit reports. I was doing them a lot last year at the beginning of the year for a while. Okay, so the final thing to understand, this is the future generation coming into the world for the next 70, 80, 90 years. So it today tells you about what's to come, what's ahead of us. And that's one of the things we're going to play with today. So Katja created some slides for us to contemplate that are coming into the future. Obviously today is the 28th, tomorrow's the 29th. So she gave us some processes that we can maybe attune to over this next week, and that is your homework assignment for the week, if it's correct for you to do this homework assignment. Okay, so tomorrow the energy for the day is a 5th line day. The season, the times that we are currently in, this process of perceptual awareness, is going to be the nodes. Okay, so the energy for the day, 5th line day. Of course, you can talk about the gate activations if you'd like to. But in general, you've heard me talk about how there's a 5th line day, and this is what it means. That's what we're going to cover today as well. Now, in his Understanding the Transiting Program books and in Channels by Type and such, we have some different, potentially, words that you can use if you would like to, if it rings true for you to appropriate for your description of the day. So here we know the moon is about drive. It's our conscious focus. So we'll be driven to, or we'll be focused on. And then you describe the gate. In this context, it's the 10. So it's about behavior, driven to have martyr-like behavior that other people will have issues with, you know? You can interpret it in your own way, and depending on what that other person has. If they've got a 34, they've got a 20, now what do you add on? You know, if they've got the whole channel, what do you add on? Well, now you might, it depends on what's going on in their design. Now you might be noticing that you're driven to behave in such and such a way. Okay, so this is, if it's personally activated in their design, this is, as far as the other side of the channel, this is where they're going to potentially really feel something, especially if it turns on a center that isn't normally turned on. Now, next we have communication, and we can see that that communication is connected up with the earth, what is grounding, the energy for the day, and they're dissonant. So at this moment, maybe it's a little uncomfortable, you know, but when it comes to fifth line, we're going to have a fully resonant channel. People may not recognize it so much because resonance is very powerful, and yet it's comfortable. Dissonance is usually something that is like, oh, this is uncomfortable. What's going on here? So the communication being about the values. We know that 50 is about values. It's about the fear of responsibility or not. The fourth line being about corruption. So the communication tomorrow during this time about corruption. You know, the corruption of the value system of the defense circuit in order for us to be preserved and protected. Those are the things that people are going to be thinking about. When we look at the mores, or, you know, your relational values, we're looking at the 44 and detriment. Anytime you see detriment, it's usually a little bit more difficult, as in the collective doesn't like the detriments. They judge the detriments for the most part as bad or wrong. And so here we have another fear gate, the fear of the past catching up with us, you know, fear of the past, fear of dying out on our genetic lineage, fear of maybe no success when it comes to being able to experience more on the material plane, because we know that's part of the material stream of capitalism. So, you know, Venus, we know it's about the mores, or our personal value system. So somebody taking this on, let's say they have a 26 on the other side, they don't have a defined heart center. What can happen is now we've got a defined heart center, and so now that 26 is being activated, and they say, I can sell anybody anything. I'll promise, I'll prove, I'll be the best, you know. So that kind of thing might be happening. The immaturity or maturing energy, you know, the Mars is very immature. It has a lot of maybe fire, juice, energy. That fourth line being cautious, or throwing caution to the wind as far as its influence of what it says, I know I can try, or I'm in the mood to try, or I know I can take action. Yeah, I'm in the mood to take action. So somebody with that 22 looking at the other side and thinking that they have to, must, should, you know, they can't afford to wait. Maybe they're emotional already, and now they're in the mood. So there's this impatience there. I say impatience because it's Mars. Yeah, Mars can be highly impatient. Think bull in a china shop. Think of the energies of the planets as you're attempting to describe them, and then appropriating that as advice, if they're asking, to the other person, and trying to make it more specific to what they may experience. Now, this word magnanimous may be something new or unusual to you, but magnanimous, think Jupiter. Jupiter is jovial. Jupiter likes expansion. Jupiter can be very generous. So that's one of the reasons why Ra used this word here. We know it can put a law out into the world, or a rule out into the world. Remember, this is conditioning. So the rule is we have to be unconditionally loving, just naturally accepting of everybody because they're deserving of love. Yeah, so that's the law that might be Jupiter might be putting out there, or calling to us with this law. Judgment. Oh, Saturn. This is one of those. I'll have two of them to share with you about my personal experience for this past week or so. Judgment. Okay, so Saturn brings the judge, the heavy hand of the judge. And this is about secrets. And my personal experience is I have Saturn in the 33. So I'm having a channel activation personally where the stories, the secrets of the past have been a part of my experience of sharing or not. I can tell you it's been for me the or not, even though I've had the opportunity to go delve into some of my past experiences because I actually hired somebody to work with me on a psychological level to help me go into some of these deep past experiences. I have been feeling completely closed off, not even wanting to share them. So you can hear the or not in it. Yeah, it's been fully resonant for me. Judgment. I don't know why. I just don't feel like it. So I'm following that, but maybe it's an influence from Saturn. Okay, so having a judgment around the secrets and not sharing the secrets, not being open to the secrets of sharing. Whereas in past experiences, this is the first time I've had Saturn, because it moves very slowly. Saturn with awareness in this channel. Normally when the sun or earth comes through there, I'm like, blah, 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 and here's what happened. You know what I mean, what I'm talking about. Experiences of the past that are kind of embarrassing, and I can't believe Lavina said that. Now it's like, nope, she's not going there. So that's my personal experience of what that's been like. The unusualness. Now this, I remember coming across this and going, wow, what the heck is going on with me? My unconscious design sun is a 14-5 and having so much energy, so much unusual energy. See, the whole thing is being connected up by the transits and just wondering what the heck is going on. So Uranus brings an unusual direction. We know that this is about direction. So what I've been noticing is an awareness of, wow, I feel almost like I want to take my business in a totally different direction. And how is that going to play out? My mind processing. And so I've been really cautious about making any big sudden changes because, hey, the transit is being activated within my own design right now. And so mostly what I've been noticing is I've been reflecting on the past and, where I've been, and do I really want to go in that direction now? Do I really want to change everything up in such an unusual way? And then being very cautious about such things. So again, before I continue on in this, it is about attuning to your awareness of what's happening inside of you, what's moving through you. And the moment you can grasp what's moving through you without identifying with it, and you're using your decision-making strategy, honoring your personal authority, now there is a potential for leveraging or taking advantage of the transit if it is correct for you. So I'm emotional, I gotta sleep on things. I'm feeling cognition, so I really gotta feel like it's okay. If something doesn't feel right, I can't move forward. I can't even talk because my body won't let me, because it feels so uncomfortable. And I refuse to live in that state of discomfort or dis-ease any longer now that I know what I know. So that's my experience of that. The blinding might be new for you. Again, these are all Ra's words that he used. We're just passing on the message. Blinding, that's an interesting word, especially with this 36 here. 36 is about deep penetration into the experience. And we have a first line, which is about insecurity. Insecurity about one's experiential depth when it comes to making progress or having achievements. Remember, the collective abstract is about achieving new experiences, new vistas, new horizons, new progress, right? Changes, whatever. So there's something that's blinding us, maybe potentially, to the crisis. Ooh, that sounds kind of scary. My mind thinks of all the money, monetarily, financial crises that we're just going to get blindsided with the crisis of our systems of financial structure going through an upheaval at this time. And it just, between a lot of the private conversations I've had with the powers that be in human design lately, to notice that, hey, there's a lot of really upsetting challenges that people are potentially completely going to be blindsided by or blinded to. And this is our human experiential way. So just to be cautious about, getting caught up in the traps of what the talking heads are saying. Because the talking heads, generally speaking, if you watch them, talking heads as in, the people who are discoursing about current events, the news, nowadays we have YouTubers we can get our news from too. They are going to be completely speaking from the program without awareness. So not taking on their judgments about the accounting or the atoning for our past, our secrets in the past and all the experiences that we're going through, particularly financially, but to adhere to your own personal sovereign truth, which is a body sensation. Yeah, it's an attunement to aligned or misaligned. It's an attunement to for me or not for me. Because all of us can take it, we're all taking this in. We cannot protect ourselves. We have no shields from the neutrino ocean. The only thing that we can do is attune to our inner truth, which is our personal decision-making process that will guide us there. Now, Pluto, in its final hurrah in the gate of mystery, we know it's about inner truth. And this is the last pass. One of the reasons why I hired somebody to help me with some of the psychological challenges and upsets that I've gone through, just to resolve some of those things. Because this is going over currently my moon, which is my mental focus. So what truths are being revealed, this final unlocking of that key to our age, as we learned last week, the cycle, this current age, the key is inner truth. So to process this with awareness is a very, very, it's deeply transformative, isn't it, Pluto? Pluto brings a death and a rebirth. So that is something that you can be aware of. And is it something that we can take on as our truth, or is it just the global homogenized truth? Only our body will tell us or give us the key. Only our body can tap us into that source within that allows us to make the right decision at the right time that we can trust. So what I see out there is, without awareness, some people do these transiting energies without reminding people to come back home to your authority. Not all of this is for us. It's the daily transit. In truth, if you look at I didn't mean to do that on purpose. In truth, if you look at the whole thing, as far as all the conditioning from the moment of birth, it's all not you, right? Because the only thing that remains true to you from the day you were born until the day that you die is your decision-making process, your imprint, your natal imprint. That natal imprint can be relied upon. It's trustworthy. And when you move through life just aligning to your simple keys, strategy, and authority, all of this will work perfectly, and the right timing of events will happen organically. But what most people want to know when they come to a cycles reading, just reminding you, they want you to tell them what's going to happen and what to do about it. So this is the thing to remember. Don't fall into the trap of trying to have that power or of prediction. I know it's really seductive. I love it too. And I've probably made some horrendous mistakes in the beginning when I didn't really grasp this as far as its deep inherent possibilities and probabilities of what it could bring, to give over the power trip and to just remember that that person will know when it's right for them. Only they will know. You can't know. We can't know. Only they will know. So to flip that, only you will know whether or not to take advantage of these aspects. And again, the reason we study this is because once you are aware of what's moving through you, and you can detach from having to make a decision because of it, and you rely upon your strategy and authority, then we have the magic of picking and choosing what is right for us, not just taking it all in and then getting sick to our stomach because we tried to eat the whole smorgasbord. Okay, that was my inspired rant. So we're going to briefly review this, because we went over it in level 1, but I want to give us a sense of all of the rough estimates, okay, rough calculation. This does not take into account retrograde movement. We're just getting a sense of the time frame that we are working with. So the sun, days around the wheel, we know 365, days in a gate, 6, days in a line, 1. When we go to the earth, we have days around the wheel, 365, days in a gate, 6, days in a line, 1. And if we move to the moon, days around the wheel, 30. Hours in a gate, 10. Hours in a line, 2. If we go to the nodes of the moon, years around the wheel, 18.6. That's a full nodal cycle. Days in a gate, 106. Days in a line, 18. 18 days in a line for those nodes. Now, when we look at, I'm going to start on this side, the right to the left, this next few slides. The days around the wheel for Mercury, which moves very, 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 very quickly, 88 days. Days in a gate, approximately 1.5. Remember, this is not accounting for retrograde movement. And hours in a line, approximately 6. Oops, I forgot to read the other one. Hang on. So, when we're looking at, this is Venus, isn't it? Hang on. Double checking, yes, because that's Mars. That's the one that, is that right, Katja? Am I getting this right? Just want to double check and make sure I'm not going to make a mistake with everybody. Yes, okay. Oops, go back, Lavina. You can see I'm having issues today. Okay, days around the wheel. For Venus, 225. Days in a gate, 4. Hours in a line, 14. So the effect of Venus on you, 14 hours in a line, 4 days in a gate. Mars, years around the wheel, 2. Days in a gate, 11. Days in a line, 2. Oh, there's a little Mars rover. That's how I remember. That's right. Okay. Days in a line, 2. So that immature energy dynamic. Days in a gate, 11. Days in a line, 2. Then we have Jove, by Jove, Jovian, Jupiter. Years around the wheel. A Jupiterian cycle is 12 years. So think about yourself at 12 years old. You remember? It feels like everything really opened up for me. I can remember thinking, gosh, I feel like an adult now. Yeah, right. Days in a gate, 68. Days in a line, 11. 11 days in a line for Jupiter. Days in a gate, 68. Bringing his good fortune and good luck, potentially, if it's correct for you to take advantage of. Now, check out the difference here with Saturn. Saturn takes 30 years around the wheel. So that's why, slow moving, yeah. We can see that Saturn takes its time. Days in a gate is 168 days. Very slow moving, Saturn. Days in a line, 28 days in a line. Oops. Okay. This is Uranus, which is very unusual and moves quite erratically. But the years around the wheel, 84. Days in a gate, 480. Days in a line, 80. And this is our current 9-centered vehicle. Yeah, our Uranian vehicles are designed to live healthfully for 84 years. Then we have the last two. We have Neptune, years around the wheel, 165. Years in a gate, 2.5. Days in a line, 157. See how different these are. And then last, the Pluto cycle of transformation, our death and rebirth of the era. Years around the wheel, 248. years in a gate, 4 days in a line, 236. So again, when you went a few weeks back and you looked at the life cycles that you have, the aspects of yourself that were activated by these larger programming elements, you know, these giant processes. It takes so long. You can see some of the conditioning elements that you lived through. Whether it was going over an aspect of you, for me it felt like steamrolling, being steamrolled, or whether it was activating an aspect of you from the other side of the channel and then creating, you know, for 27 as an example, would have created a new awareness in their design, or transforming, even if you have a channel there, transforming your awareness in context. Okay, so one of the first things to recognize about 1, 2, and 3, particularly these second and third line days, is that there is much more of an advantage to generators and projectors on these days, because it tends to bring out the opportunities, maybe called out, the opportunities of responding. You know, researching the chameleon day, 3, the most dangerous day, where we have this bumping into something or being forced to respond because, hey, we had an encounter. So it's much easier for manifesting generators or manifestors on the transpersonal days, when the week gets into this transpersonal phase, when it reaches the 4, 5, and 6. Why? Because there's activity. So we have preparation during the week, and then we have the activity and evaluation at the end of the week. We're going to break this down day by day. But you can see with the 4, 5, and 6, we have potential interaction first, then the peak of that week's energy or activity, and the 6th line, our day of rest, the true Sunday. We look and see what has happened to us through the last 5 days of the transit. So being objective or evaluating what happened on those days. So you'll have heard me say during live streams, hey, it's a great day to be, or today even I said this, it's a great day to network, to be influential, potential interaction, if it's correct for you. If it's correct for you. And then on 5th line days, reaching into the stranger world. My mind went, stranger danger, no! Stranger world, to have a positive influence, if it's correct for you, if it's aligned with your decision-making strategy. Okay, let's look at these individually here in a moment. You can see we've got the transit having a specific impact on you this upcoming week. So what Katja has done for us is taken the transit starting tomorrow and then highlighted in blue the potential activations that would be personally interacting with the transiting field. So if you have any of these gate activations in blue, you're going to be able to attune to this week's energies, potentially, not always, but potentially, and see if anything rings a bell, rings true, brings forth some kind of awareness as far as the program that we are going to be assessing or processing this week for your homework. Now remember, the nature of a transit is that it is going to bring about definition in your design. Period. Full stop. It's obviously going to have an impact, most especially if you have undefined centers that the transit is actually turning on. So you can see in this week's transit, it's potentially turning on all 9 centers. Okay, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's going to have that happen to them. It depends on which of these blue activations they personally have. The only thing that everybody is going to be experiencing in some way, shape, or form is when we have a global conditioning pattern. So when you see the transit has a channel activated, we call that a global conditioning pattern. And then you list the name of the channel and the design of. Okay? So it's the whole thing when we talk about being unique, each of us being unique. unique aspects within a general program. This general program establishes all the possible conditions of the programming. But each and every one of us in our sovereign uniqueness filters the program specifically, which means that some things do not affect us, while other things really, 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 really do. And you yourself are going to go through this in this next week and process with awareness and report back if it's correct for you. What did you notice? I really, really, really honor and respect those of you who maybe it's not correct for you to do this at this time. It's totally fine. Don't feel like you're behind or you don't know what's going on. Everybody has their own timing and process for this. But for those of you who have been experimenting with this for a while, maybe you've been doing transit reports on your own, maybe you've been studying for a long time and you notice something, please, please, please do let us know. Make a little video, a little audio, a little written up something about what you notice this upcoming week. Okay, because this is not going to only teach you, because it's going to further cement it into your awareness so that you remember it by transcribing it, writing it out, or sharing it with us. But also it's going to help your fellow students who maybe aren't at your level yet to be aware of what could happen, what might happen, you know, the possibilities, the potentials of what is happening within you. Because remember, we are all receptive to this program. And I absolutely love it when you guys share. It's so fascinating and so wonderful to see. I celebrate with you when you can see this stuff with awareness. Okay, hang on a sec. This week, man, I have been drinking so much and there's been so much energy running through me. It's incredible. Getting a little overheated. Okay, hang on. Taking off clothes. Don't worry, I'm still clothed. Okay, when the whole channel is being defined by the program, every single human being on the planet has that as a background frequency. All of us, every single one of us. Okay. Now, because again, each of us has a different human design, so not all of us are going to relate to that background energy in the same way. Personally, for me, I have my own 27. Thank you very much. Which currently happens to be, it's fourth line day, it's dissonant. Tomorrow it will be harmonic because I've got a 2 there. So I might be feeling this energy quite differently if it's still there. So if you don't have anything in this channel, it really is the background. It's the environment all around you. You could call it a flavor, if you will, adding to the soup of the matrix of what we're experiencing. What seems to be moving through everything, or what's underlying things. But if you're somebody like me who has a gate in that channel, then not only are you meeting the other end, in my personal example, I'm meeting the other end, but it's also where I'm going to be compromised. The transit itself is compromising me. So in other words, there's this very, especially strong energy, because we're talking about the sacral center, the life force, the energy resource, this strong energy that can really impact you and pull you in a specific direction. What do we know about what happens when the life force is being activated? I'm trying to erase, there we go. Life force is being activated in the splenic center. For somebody like me who has it undefined, what happens is, oh, I don't need that anymore. I'm safe. I'm healthy. I can let go of that thing I've been holding on to for dear life that actually does make a difference in my health, safety, and security, right? And the not self, the mind will go, oh, I don't need that anymore. Rather than, and spontaneously, I might add, I don't need that anymore. Let's just go off in this new direction and do something else. Whew. That is challenging. I can tell you my mind has been fantasizing about all these different unique and wonderful directions I could take my business, and not necessarily like, hey, look at what's already been working and what has already been successful in your life. I'm watching the program as, you know, the current life cycle is bringing in, I believe it's Mars, you know, this impatience to start something new in my Uranus opposition, and wanting to go in a different direction. and having to be so careful about letting go of such things that are actually making a difference in the health of my business. Yeah, here we have in this, if you had a 26, you would be feeling that right now and during this time where we have that process in the transits that is activating with you, because the 44 is coming from the transit. So it can pull you in a specific direction is the whole point here. Yeah, not just talking about the G center, but we're talking about a direction in life, literally, quite literally with this transit, that may be completely new, because there's a lot of newness in the transit overall. And your mind might think, hey, it's logical. I could support more people. I could build a stronger foundation for my business. This is part of the place where we do that. And in order to protect and take care of the people that are working with you or under you as part of your team, your allies, to build a big business, this is where it all begins. So yeah, once you stop identifying with what's moving through you, you can take advantage of what's moving through you to continue that according to your decision-making strategy. Okay, so it's not about eliminating conditioning. One of my favorite quotes that I repeat from Ra all the time. It's about eliminating the ignorance of conditioning, because any center that is open in you is your opportunity for wisdom. This is your opportunity through that filtering process to stop. Once you stop identifying with what's moving through you, you can take advantage of what's moving through you. Again, wisdom potential, okay? Using your decision-making strategy, not your mind. That is the key. Okay, so on a fifth line day, the fifth line day is full of projection. This is a day where everybody is speculating about everybody else. It's a very good day to keep things practical. Yeah, stay out of sight other than what's practical. So you might hear me regularly when I go, oh my God, I love fifth line days. Well, for one thing, I have a lot of fifth lines, 9 fifth lines, so it resonates with me. I notice the difference in the quality of my teaching when I teach on fifth line days, like, wow, I really loved how that came out of me. And on a fifth line day, I try to schedule those things where I'm reaching out into the public and attempting to seduce people over to my cause, which is learn human design. Align to your design and live and love. Live as yourself to love yourself, that kind of thing. So we have the initial positive projection field that really works for me. I've experimented with it for many years. It really works for me when it comes to doing promotional pieces. We know the 5 is about marketing or being a messenger. But other than that, stay out of sight, says Ra, as a fifth line being himself. So on fifth line days is when people lose their reputations, because if they're not being practical, the world, in his words, explodes on them. They get burned at the stake. Yeah, the heretical dilemma of being a 5. So sixth line days, when you look at the theme, the line of this day, you could see whether or not it has harmony or resonance with your profile. For me, it definitely has harmony. So on 6 line days, I'm a 3rd line personality construct. It would feel way more comfortable than, say, a 4 or a 1, or is that it? 4, 1, on the personality side anyway. And I'm on the unconscious side, I'm a 5, so 5 and 2 is comfortable. So you can look and learn on the 6th line day, look at all of the 3rd and 6th line activations in your chart. You're going to be aware of this stuff potentially on the personality construct side. Remember, the design works perfectly. You do not have to figure it out. And you may be unaware of how it feels on the body side. But it can be an interesting surprise or a delight when it pops out, and then you look back on it with awareness after the fact, right? Anything that's on the design side, it happens that you're like, wow, unaware before it happens, maybe even as it's happening, until you get a sense of the feeling. For me, I say feeling because I'm emotional and I'm feeling cognition. Please understand. You're going to interpret this in your own way. But for me, I know what it feels like now. because I've experienced it. So you can start to look at your activations on each of these days and see what are you resonating with. But remember, the overarching theme, 70%. Yeah, this is 70%. This is what you see, nuances and subtleties, until it is activated in your chart personally. And now you get I'm just highlighting the ones I told you about because I'm really feeling them. Now you get a really good sense personally of what's moving through the transits. And then you can use your discerning process to see whether or not it's really true for you. So Ra's recommendations on 6 line days is that it's a day of rest. The way that you rest is that you get the best perspective that you can. What do we know about 6s? Long range view. So looking down the line of circuitry fully. Now this depends on the type that you are. For me, I'm a projector. I could climb the mountain and sit on a hill, you know? Love climbing mountains. I love sitting on hills. Or you could, if I'm not feeling well, I might lie down in front of the TV and watch something. So it depends on the kind of view that you want to have. But a 6 line day is just a day where you sort of look around. It's a day to be aloof, a day to sit on the roof or the fence, whatever the case may be. Just look and see what's happened to you through the last 5 days of this transit. That's what you want to experiment with. Ra says the thing to recognize about 6 line days is that if you're under 30, the 6 line day is when you have the one night stands. The 6 line day is when you have crises. The 6 line day is when you get really messed up. The 6 line day is when you jump in and do all kinds of outrageous things. Now, if you're over 30, the 6 line day is, I'm too tired, leave me alone. Nah, I don't want to be bothered with that. Because remember, we have that shift. And all of us, my friends, not just 6 lines, all of us are being conditioned into this kind of 6 line quality as we get closer and closer to 2027, you know, having that tripartite life process. All of us go through some element of that because we're entering into a 6 line era. And there are so many, I don't know how many billions, you know, of people that have 6 lines in their design. So it's a huge conditioning factor, even if you're not a 6 line yourself. So this applies, even if you're not a 6 line yourself. And I think about my past and go, yep, I totally relate with that. Okay. So let's talk about a 1st line day now. On a 1st line day, you'll hear me say, research day, study day. It's a great day to get down to the details, right? It's also a chameleon day. The chameleon day being about, you know, waking up in the sense to a new rave week. So what are we going to experience now? It's something different, something new. So Ra says to pay attention to that 1st day, because if you're trying to do things on the 1st line day, you're going to be less successful. Okay, it's about preparation, remember, 1, 2, and 3, preparation. A 1st line day is the day to find the foundation. It's a day to do your research. It is a day to get comfortable with the transition to a totally new frequency. That's entering into our global background or global conditioning program, a global conditioning pattern. It's the correct statement here. Global conditioning pattern for a new channel. So the 1st day is really not about going out there into the world, you know, scheduling important meetings. It's actually more about being the chameleon, to be looking for that solid foundation, because after all, the 1st line theme is about being an expert or an authority. Now this sun, this inner planet, it's really part of the ongoing inner program of our solar system. The sun provides us with the feed, and the earth gives us the potential to ground it into the form, into the world. But without Mercury, we cannot communicate it. Without Venus, we cannot establish it in our lives and in our relationships. When you see them in conjunction with the Sun-Earth movement, it's very important. you're going to find that there may be effects on either side of the planetary activation, because we know planets affect lines, specific lines. And so you're going to see when there's a conjunction, there's an emphasis or a repeating theme as far as what's going to happen. So then we know that if we take into account your design, depending on what line activation and what planet you've got on the other side, this is going to be interpreted or experienced differently within your own process. That's why it's so unique, so profound to be able to run these charts for yourself. We'll show you how to do that towards the end if you need some help with that. Okay. Second line days. You may get called out. You really have to. Wait for the call, to be called on this day. You hear me say it's a hermit day, it's a day to do what's natural, what feels normal or easy or fun for you. So the second line is about being visible, because we have somebody dancing in the window, the lights on, everybody outside can see in, and you're unaware. You're unaware that this is what can be seen. So this is an opportunity for you to get called out potentially. The second line day is all about getting called. It's preparation again. So one of the things to recognize, Ra says, if you look at the points in your design where there's the most pressure on you, then you'll see that these transits, now particularly when we talk about Jupiter and Saturn, they bring incredible information. Because if you look back in those cycles, you can begin to see what they're going to bring in the future. So looking back, I don't have anything active over here, so it's not something that I can really relate to. But looking back at this time where I noticed, hey, what's going on with my sharing of what I remember and why my voice? So my personal experience of myself lately, my friends, I don't know what it's like for you, but if you've been watching me in my classes, I've been teaching. I teach every day. I've been teaching with such fervor and power and insistence and this energy of like, I don't want to say limitation, but force. There's this force that's coming out of my voice. And thank God my throat doesn't hurt. My thyroid isn't, giving me issues. I feel very powerful during this transit. There's more of this oomph to it. So in looking back on this week, I can now know, hey, every person that I talk to in the future, if they've got, something going on there like I do, Saturn in the 33, and line 6 for me, I know now from personal experience what I personally experienced that Saturn in. Now, again, it's going to depend completely on their whole design. My other Saturn's up here in this, communication. So they may not experience the same thing in the same way. Of course, I've got us 14, so we've got all this power going up to the throat. So you always preface it with, if you're sharing anything personally, well, this is what it was like for me. I wonder what it's like for you with this and this and this. And I tend to project using my imagination. What might that be like? So everybody's going to interpret differently and experiment with this and asking or informing and then waiting to see what they say or note with openness, not with like, this is the way it has to be. That's going to serve you much better. It's going to do better when it comes to interpreting these things. Sharing what you notice from experience has so much weight to it and is so much value, I can tell you, when you've had the personal experience of that. Okay, so that was the 2 being called. Third line day. The most dangerous day. If ever there was a day that you were going to avoid using power tools, I would recommend not to do it on a third line day, because this is the shit happens day. And this is the day that I spill my coffee or things break or software doesn't work or whatever I misspeak, whatever the case may be when it comes to a third line day, is a problem day when things start to bump into each other, because now we're hitting the material plane. Ross says it's his deepest satori when watching the program live itself out through others. There's this moment that it becomes really hallucinogenic. There's a moment in which it's like, wait a minute, because you hear people speaking the keynotes. You see them acting out exactly on what is there. And of course, what that does for you inside, all your cells start vibrating to that because you really see the living program at work. And I can tell you from experience, experimenting and watching this, that's one of the reasons why I do my daily, hey, let's look at the transits and see what's there. Besides the practice in the beginning, it's a reminding me of what's going on so that when I start to hear the keynotes, I know where it's coming from. And you can watch it. It's like another secret key code to the game that we're playing, the movie that we're all watching. It's like, oh, there it is. There it is. I can feel it. I can see it. And it's so much fun for me personally, because I'm a human design geek and I know a lot of you are too. So there's this principle of third line trial and error on the third line day, where something bumps into you and you see what happens out of that, what is experienced, what is experimented with. This is a day when you can be shocked and you can be hurt because the third line brings physical impact. So it's one of the things to see. When you see this third line in the day, that's the day where you start to pay attention to those things that bump into you. And it's important for you to recognize the opportunities of the day, what happens, when shit breaks and things go wrong, what did you learn when those things bumped into you? How can we adapt? How can we be resilient? Because remember, this is all learning programs, learning themes. And it's fun to see those learning themes, and to laugh and go, oops, oh well, that's how I deal with it anyway. Oops, there it is. I did it again. Or that happened. It happens. All right, so this fourth line day as a potential interaction, and you can see I'm just talking about the fours. I'm not really giving you advice for the rest of it, because to begin with, it's just enough to look at the quality of the day. Quality of the day on the fourth line, potential interaction, we're talking about up here, the return, right? So remember what the channel is about. It's about awareness. And now we're going to actually see it being influential or having its potential interaction out in the world. The whole thing to understand about following transits is not about avoiding them. It's about not about trying to deny them as if they're changing you and all that stuff. So, I can't do that because, it's the transit. So that's totally not self. No. As long as you're listening to the nature of your own type, following your strategy and authority to enter into things correctly, you can take advantage of these conditioning elements because it's going to be there. So next week, when we had that start, let's go back and see, when did we have that start? Right here on the first line day, okay? So when you see it on the 31st of October, this awareness budding inside of you, the thing that you could watch for at night is, hey, I can't get to sleep because I keep having the same looping thought pattern over and over and over again, right? Pineal gland, pituitary gland. It might potentially bring on headaches because you're trying to figure it all inside of your head, and it's just looping and looping and looping, the internal loudness, the loudest, most looping oriented mind awareness that we have. So it's inside, it's maybe being seen by others, called out, and here, oops, we're making mistakes with such energy. And now on the fourth line day, it is your awareness potentially being of influence out in the world. Is it correct for you? Because the moment you step into the upper trigram, we're looking at transpersonal potential. The most powerful day of the Rave Week is our fourth line day. It's the day of externalization. It's the day when you can externalize your completion, where you can ground yourself, going into the grounding of yourself in the value of things when it comes to awareness in context here. So if you are a fourth line being, those would be more of a powerful day for you to do your reaching out into the network to those that you know, as far as being of influence or taking opportunities, taking advantage of the opportunity. to send that newsletter to explain your awareness if it is correct for you. So it's also about being friendly. You want to shoot the shit, chit chat, talk story, however it is that you talk to people about such things. You want to be friendly and of influence. That's the day to do it. Of course, according to your decision-making process. So this is a real transition from the lower 1, 2, 3. Now we have the break, 4, 5, 6. The transpersonalness is about more interaction possible on a fourth line day. So it's easier to do business on these days, especially if you're 4 or 1. It's easier to feel the strength in being fixed in the way that you present yourself on that day because it is a fourth line. Hi, today's the fourth line day. You can see I'm being much more loose about stuff. I'm not being as prim and proper. I'm actually slouching in my chair. Maybe I should sit up. Okay, so to be able to be of influence and take advantage of the opportunities, this is the thing that you're going to encounter on fourth line days. So when you can use all the people around you in your life as uninformed guinea pigs in your experimentation with how to deal with the environment, because you can see what's happening in the people around you depending on what the transit is bringing. So here's all the days that Katja's put up with the weathers to remind us that this is the weather forecast. Use the people around you, observe them in their process, witness, watch, maybe ask questions if it's correct for you to discourse about it, and see if you can observe the weather at work. Because when you watch that movie and you're aware of the mechanics and it's correct for you to take advantage of it yourself, the mechanics of what's moving through you, you learn so much. And you can see how easy it makes life when you let the mechanics rule and see how deep the program is. Remember how deep this program goes. It's in us. It is lived and breathed and experienced by us moment to moment to moment. And we cannot help that. So just bringing the light of awareness and reminding yourself of the strategy and authority, this is the thing that makes it so unique and so different. Okay, I'm back with my asking, informing, inviting. How's it landing? Pacing okay? Anything that you want to let me know before I continue? And there is one thing I want to let you know is that there's going to be a tutorial at the end. So if you already know how to use my BodyGraph and Maya Mechanics, you can just feel free to dip out because yeah, it's just going to be a tutorial after we finish this next piece of information. Oh, good. Yay. Yeah, Katja did an amazing job with this. It's freaking phenomenal. I can't tell you what a relief and how inspiring it is to be able to partner with you, Katja, and explain these things. It's so much fun. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's like I've only been doing human design since 2012, but it feels like a lifelong dream come true. It really does. I love it too, Claire. I'm so glad. It is just wonderful material. This right here, it could be a whole class course in and of itself, you know. We're giving you the view of it, but yeah, to have this structure and framework to explain it, it feels really exciting and fun. Yay! All right, good. So let's continue. Thank you for the feedback. Let me, just for those of you who are sensitive to sound, I'm about to snap my fingers. How to use this information now that we've been talking about. What it's going to do is it gives you a general idea of how people will be or what they may experience on a specific day. So that's one thing. What's going to happen in the future? potentially. General idea, remember. And then you could also use it in retrospect. Okay, how can I comprehend or understand what just happened? Okay, that's the thing that I love most, especially in my personal experience, so that I can learn. Like, what the heck is going on with me right now? And so looking back, you can say, now it makes sense. There's nothing wrong with me. Oh, it's just the transits. So you can take a deep breath. This too shall pass, whatever it is that you're going through, and go, oh well. So I've long since abandoned the idea of being embarrassed about what I show up like anymore. And so then I can be more of my unique, weird, frivolous, serious, whatever the case may be, self, and not worry about how it's going to come off, because I can't control it if I'm just allowing myself to be who I am. So it just allows you to, when you're looking at yourself, be comfortable and answer that niggling question of, why did I say that? Why was I like that? Oh, well, there it is. It's just a transit. So you can use it for yourself to feel more comfortable, or you can also use it for your clients. So every time somebody comes and does a session with me and they're complaining about certain things, I look at the current transit, the moment of them asking or complaining or whatever the case may be. You see me do it in classes as well. And I go, oh, that's what's happening, and then just, yeah, it's okay. Don't worry, this too shall pass, kind of a thing, to help them feel better about what is going on and not take it so personally. The not self human being takes everything so personally, right? Because the mind will identify with what it is not. Oh, I can't believe I said that way, and freaking out because, what does that mean? And then making a decision because of what came out of your mouth, when for the vast majority of the people, it's not about deciding based on what you hear yourself say at all, right? It's a body sensation or a process of awareness that is your authority, not what you say. So what you can do with this information, again, be very careful about this, is you can help clients select product launch dates, talk dates, lecture dates, notification dates, email dates, anything that is of huge value or import to them. Maybe a couple getting married, going into business together, starting a business, any of those things. So you can give them the information to give them a feel. And always, always, always remember to the final word, the first, middle, and last final say is their process of personal authority, so that they can rely upon, trust their decision-making strategy, and honor their integrity. Now, from planetary conditioning, this is from Ra. Oh, I see a chat. Okay. Thank you, Katja. So planetary conditioning, it takes the moon 29 and a half days on average to go around the wheel. Every 29 and a half days, it activates every single gate and line in a wheel. It does that about 14 times a year, and it stays in a gate for about half a day. Every 2 hours, the moon is shifting a line. So what that means is everybody has their own lunar pattern, not just reflectors. So why you would use the lunar cycle, the advantage of this is that it is a great gate teacher, because it's going to go around the wheel so quickly that you can actually watch it with awareness, and it brings you into contact with all these various activations in your own personal design that are taking place. It will help you recognize the impact of what it's like to be fixed. So within that period of 29 and a half days, any gate that you have that's either dormant or active, it's looking for activation on the other side of the channel, you will find it during that month because of the moon. And there's nothing more important for reflectors than coming to grips with the lunar cycle. So for those of you who have not gone through my PTL1, my Analyst Training Level 1, if you would like me to share the how to do a reflector analysis reading. I'm open to sharing that with you. Just please let me know either now or later on when you hear this that you need that, okay? Because I know some of you haven't taken my analyst training for reflectors, because that's what we go through is the lunar cycle, the lunar pattern. Because we've already done that, this time around, Katja made me, I love it, made me a little, here's the start point from this past moon. Coming to grips. Yes, coming to grips with it. So we have the start point over here, my moon, and that was in October 4th, where the moon was there. And you can see as it moves, it's going to create a certain pattern all the way around the wheel, because I have the other side of the channel as an activation that is either already on in some cases or a dormant potential, and then it creates my lunar pattern. Now, because I'm not a reflector, I won't feel this as strongly as a reflector would. Remember, the reflector has the deepest connection, a most personal and profound connection to the lunar cycle, because the lunar cycle is their only consistency within their body graph. That is what they can trust. But so too with us who are non-lunar types, we still have a lunar cycle. So this is still something that you could observe if you wanted to. Now, personally, I can tell you, I haven't gone through this myself and experienced it. I haven't been able to watch it or process it, but I can see, I can be aware if I move forward with this and track it, that on certain days of the month, like on the 30th, I am going to be driven with that ambition, because that's what the moon is bringing me. And then I'm also going to have some struggle, because I've got the 28 on the other side, design of stubbornness. Yeah, so transformation and stubbornness are two things that the moon brings me every time it activates my design. And then just going all the way around the wheel, you're going to find that there is a way. Gotcha, this is amazing. There's a way to process what's happening. And so for that period of time, I'm going to be a transmitter temporarily, just briefly, just for half a day. I'm going to have that experience of being a transmitter because of the moon in my design. So I'm just going to pull out, because I'm going to go back in again. Might be kind of dizzy making. There we go. Channel of structuring. So because I have a 23, I'm going to have the structuring freak channel, individuality, for a very short period of time. On the 25th, that's when it happened this last time around. And coming back out, here's my preservation, design of custodianship, where I'll have that as a temporary, transit activation. So having the sacral defined, having the splenic center defined, which is normally not the case with me. And then we see the channel of judgment, insatiability, where because I have the 58, the 18 coming in. And then next we would have the channel of discovery, 46, 29, because I have the 29, succeeding where others fail. And so during this time, I know when I have the splenic center defined, that this might be a time that I can take on some kind of homeopathic, and maybe potentially having it be, or medicine, any kind of medicine. I don't take drugs unless I'm absolutely dying and I have to. But there's more effectiveness when the the splenic center is defined. Next place. Okay, so when the moon is down here in communication, in form, the ability to inform civilization, then we know that there's going to be an aspect of communication that is more consistent, because I have a lot of activations that are pointed here. So we have, there we go, channel of the alpha, good or bad. That was on the 18th, where I might be talking about implementing or putting the plan into action through that kind of experience of leadership, good or bad. Maturation will be activated. It was activated on the 17th. Design of balanced development, cyclical development. And then concentration. On these days, I might schedule something that would allow me to be more concentrated and determined and focused, logical. Maybe doing some accounting or something where I have to really sit down and focus on maybe writing a letter to, or a newsletter, email to people. And here we have the flip. There we go. Channel of rhythm. 5:15, a design of being in the flow. So every month, like clockwork, that 15 is going to come in from the moon into my 5, and now I've got a specific flow as far as the experience of being in the flow. Sorry, I had to pull out. Let's go back in. Channel of money. Every month, like clockwork, that moon is going to come in and hit my 45, or hit in the 45, hit my 21, hit tribal, tactile, touch. It's going to hit there, and then I've got materialism. Oops, there's an extra T there. And so what you'll notice when activations hit the heart center, especially if you're an undefined heart center person, be careful for overspending or, promising material needs and requirements there for expression. The channel of the wavelength, design of talent. The 48 is mine, and the 16 coming in, that happened on the 13th. That would have been something that would help me develop some talent or express myself. And then we have the beat, regularly. Keeper of the keys, like clockwork. Every month that moon is going to hit my 14 and give me that energy resource to empower a direction, especially in my family or in business. Then we have the awareness, design of a thinker. Those times when potentially the looping thought patterns will be present when it hits the 24 and my 61. And then the last piece, which 10-5, that was when that happened. Channel of the prodigal, design of a witness. So that's like clockwork on those days. Let's say if I wanted to take advantage of this and I was in the mood, remember moon is moody. If I was in the mood to tell a story or write my memoirs or something like that, I could potentially go into the emotionality of such experiences when the moon is there, because that's what the program is going to bring me. Okay, so that's my personal lunar pattern. Everybody has that. And it's most especially helpful for those who are reflective because they don't have life force in the channels consistently. Their life force is created from the activations in the lunar cycle, and that's why we ask them to wait the full lunar cycle. Okay.